My name is Alexander, and this is the story of how I fell in love with my twin brother, Nathan. We were identical twins, mirror images of each other. But our personalities couldn't have been more different. Growing up in suburban Boston, I was always the more reserved one. Studious, introspective, often lost in books or my own thoughts. Nathan was our parents' social butterfly, captain of the swim team, and seemingly friends with everyone at school. Yet, despite our differences, we shared an unbreakable bond that went beyond typical brotherly closeness. I first realized my feelings weren't entirely brotherly when we were 16. It was during one of our shared morning routines. Getting ready for school in our joint bathroom, I caught myself staring at Nathan as he stepped out of the shower. His body, the sight stirred something in me that I immediately tried to suppress. Horrified by my own reaction, for months afterward, I tried to deny these feelings, throwing myself into my studies and avoiding being alone with Nathan as much as possible. But living together, sharing a bathroom, and having adjacent bedrooms made that nearly impossible. Nathan noticed the change in my behavior. One night, he confronted me about it in our shared study space. "Alex, what's going on with you lately?" he asked. Closing his textbook. "You've been acting weird for months." I kept my eyes fixed on my calculus homework. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Bull." He moved to sit on the edge of my desk. "You barely look at me anymore. You practically run away whenever we're alone together. Did I do something wrong?" The concern in his voice made my chest ache. "No, you didn't do anything. I'm dealing with some stuff." "What stuff?" We used to tell each other everything. I finally looked up at him and immediately wished I hadn't. His blue eyes, identical to mine, were filled with hurt and confusion. The late afternoon sun streaming through our window caught his honey blonde hair, creating a halo effect that made my heart race. "I can't tell you this," I whispered. "You'll hate me." He reached out and grabbed my hand, a gesture that used to be so natural between us but now sent electricity through my body. "I could never hate you. Alex, you're my twin. You're part of me." Those words, meant to be comforting, only made everything worse because he was right. He was part of me. And these feelings were so wrong. "That's exactly the problem," I said, pulling my hand away. "You're my twin, my brother." And I couldn't finish the sentence. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by something I couldn't quite read. "Alex," he said softly, "are you attracted to me?" The world seemed to stop. My heart pounded so hard I was sure he could hear it. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then, to my complete shock, Nathan laughed, not mockingly but with relief. "God, is that all? I thought you were dying or something." Before I could process what was happening, he leaned down and pressed his lips to mine. The kiss was soft, tentative, questioning. When he pulled back, his eyes searched mine. "I've been feeling it too," he admitted. "For months, maybe longer. I just didn't know how to tell you." That first kiss changed everything. We sat in stunned silence for several minutes afterward, neither of us quite believing what had just happened. Finally, I found my voice. "How long?" I asked. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture we both shared. "Remember last summer when we went to the lake house? That night we stayed up late swimming under the stars?" I nodded. How could I forget? We'd spent hours in the water, laughing and splashing like kids despite being nearly 17. "Something felt different that night," he continued. "The way the moonlight hit your face. How close we were. I wanted to kiss you then. But I thought I was going crazy." "You're not crazy," I whispered. "Or if you are, we both are." He moved from the desk to sit beside me on my bed. "What do we do now?" It was a loaded question. We both knew this wasn't something we could just act on freely. We were brothers, twins, no less. Society would never accept this. "We have to be careful," I said. "Nobody can know obviously." He took my hand again, intertwining our fingers. "But I mean, what do we do about us?" I looked at our joined hands, identical in size and shape, yet his slightly more tanned from outdoor swimming. "I don't know. This is wrong on so many levels." "Does it feel wrong?" He brought our joined hands to his lips, kissing my knuckles. The gesture sent shivers down my spine. "No," I admitted. "That's what scares me." That night marked the beginning of our secret relationship. We were already close, twins who shared everything, so nobody questioned when we spent most of our time together. But behind closed doors, everything had changed. We started small, stolen kisses when we were alone, Lingering touches that meant more than brotherly affection. Nights spent talking in whispers about our feelings and fears. We were careful to maintain our usual dynamics in front of others. But it became increasingly difficult to hide our growing attraction. One particular incident stands out in my memory. It was about 2 weeks after our first kiss. Our parents were out for their weekly date night, leaving us alone in the house. We were watching a movie in the living room, but neither of us was paying attention to the screen. Nathan was playing with my hair, something he'd always done, but now each touch felt electric. I was hyper-aware of his body next to mine, the heat radiating from his skin. "Stop thinking so loud," he murmured, pulling me closer. "I can't help it. What if Mom and Dad come home early?" He checked his phone. "They just texted. They're going for drinks after dinner. We have at least 2 more hours." Before I could respond, he shifted our position so I was lying back on the couch with him hovering over me. The look in his eyes, my eyes, but somehow different, made my breath catch. "Nathan," I breathed. He leaned down to kiss me. And this time, there was nothing tentative about it. His lips were demanding, hungry, and I responded with equal fervor. My hands found their way under his shirt, tracing the muscles I'd admired so many times before. We'd never gone beyond kissing until that point. But something was different that night. Maybe it was the security of being alone in the house. Or maybe we'd just reached a breaking point in our mutual desire. His hands slipped under my shirt, exploring territory that was simultaneously familiar and thrillingly new. We'd seen each other naked countless times. Sharing a bathroom made that inevitable. But this was different. Each touch was charged with intention, with desire. "We should stop," I gasped as his lips moved to my neck. "Do you want to stop?" His voice was husky, his breath hot against my skin. Did I? Every rational part of my brain was screaming that this was wrong. That we were crossing a line we couldn't uncross. But my body had other ideas. "No," I admitted. That night, we crossed the final physical boundary between us. It was awkward at first. We were both virgins, both nervous, both acutely aware of the taboo we were breaking. But there was also something natural about it, as if our bodies knew exactly how to fit together. Afterward, lying tangled in each other's arms on the couch, reality started to creep back in. "We can never tell anyone about this," I said softly. Nathan tightened his arms around me. "I know. This is just for us." The next few months were a delicate balance of public restraint and private passion. We became experts at maintaining our brotherly facade while stealing moments of intimacy whenever we could. Our shared bedroom wall became a blessing. We developed a system of quiet knocks to signal when it was safe to sneak into each other's rooms at night. But living this double life wasn't easy. The guilt would sometimes overwhelm me, especially when our parents would talk about how close we were, how lucky they were to have such loving sons. If they only knew the truth. Nathan handled it better than I did. He had always been the more confident one, more comfortable in his own skin. When I would spiral into guilt and self-doubt, he would pull me back. "Love is love," he would say. "Who cares what anyone else thinks?" But we both knew it wasn't that simple. As our senior year progressed, we faced a new challenge: college applications. We'd always assumed we'd go to different schools. It was what our parents wanted, believing we needed to develop our own identities. Now, the thought of separation was unbearable. We could apply to the same places. Nathan suggested one night as we lay in his bed, my head on his chest. Nobody would question twins wanting to stay together. Mom and Dad would? They've been pushing the "spread your wings" narrative since freshman year. He ran his fingers through my hair, a gesture that never failed to calm me. "Then we'll convince them. I'll say I want to swim for whatever school you choose. They know how important swimming is to me." The plan worked better than we expected. When acceptance letters started arriving, we both got into several of the same schools. After much discussion and strategic manipulation on our part, our parents agreed to let us attend the same university, a large school in California where Nathan had been offered a swimming scholarship. The prospect of going to college together, of having more freedom to be ourselves, was exhilarating, but it also meant bigger risks. A new environment meant new people to fool, new opportunities to slip up. Moving to California felt like a fresh start. Our parents helped us move into our dorm. We'd managed to get a room together again. Playing the twin card. As soon as they left, Nathan pushed our beds together. "Finally," he said, pulling me close. "No more sneaking around at night. College life brought new freedoms but also new complications. We had to be careful about how we acted around our dorm mates and classmates. Everyone knew we were twins, so certain types of physical affection were accepted. But we had to constantly monitor ourselves to ensure we didn't cross any lines in public. Nathan's swimming schedule kept him busy with practice and meets, while I threw myself into my pre-med studies. The time apart was both good and bad. It helped maintain our cover story but made our reunions more intense. One particular evening stands out in my memory. Nathan had just won an important meet, breaking a school record in the process. The team was celebrating at a local bar, and I went along as the proud brother. Watching him being congratulated, seeing others admire him in his tight team shirt, made something possessive stir in me. When we finally got back to our room, I couldn't keep my hands off him. Someone's feeling territorial, he teased as I pushed him against the door. Did you see how that blonde girl from the diving team was looking at you? He laughed, pulling me closer. Jealous baby brother. He never let me forget I was younger by 7 minutes. Maybe, I admitted, nipping at his neck. Don't be. You're the only one I want. He proved it thoroughly that night. But not everything was perfect. The stress of hiding our relationship, combined with academic pressure and Nathan's athletic commitments, sometimes took its toll. We had our first major fight during sophomore year. It started when Nathan began spending more time with a teammate named Jake. They had several classes together and often studied late at the library. I tried not to be jealous, but it was hard. One night, after Nathan came back from another study session, I couldn't hold back anymore. Do you like him? I demanded as soon as he walked in. He looked confused. Who? Jake? You've been spending an awful lot of time with him lately. Nathan's expression hardened. Are you serious right now? You're always with him studying, getting coffee, watching movies. Because he's my friend. Alex, am I not allowed to have friends? Friends don't look at you the way he does. Even if he is interested. Which he's not, it doesn't matter. You know you're the only one for me. He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. God, do you know how hard this is? Having to pretend all the time. Never being able to show how I really feel about you. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. You think it's not hard for me too? Then stop making it harder. I need to have some kind of normal life. Alex, I can't just exist in this bubble with you. No matter how much I want to. That fight was a turning point in our relationship. After hours of heated discussion that turned into tearful confessions, we realized we needed to find a better balance. We couldn't live solely for each other, it wasn't healthy. No matter how much we loved one another. We started making an effort to develop separate friendships and interests while maintaining our deep connection. Nathan continued his friendship with Jake, who, as it turned out, was completely straight and dating a girl from his hometown. And I joined a study group for my advanced biology classes. But our nights still belonged to us. In our room, we could be ourselves completely. Those were the moments I lived for, lying in bed together, talking about our days, sharing our dreams and fears. What happens after college? I asked one night during our junior year. We were curled together in our pushed-together beds, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. What do you mean? We can't live together forever without people getting suspicious. Eventually, we'll be expected to date, get married. He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing patterns on my back. We could move somewhere where nobody knows us. Start fresh. As what? Brothers who live together forever. Maybe we don't have to be brothers there. I lifted my head to look at him. What are you saying? We're identical twins. Alex, nobody would question us looking exactly alike. We could say we're partners who just happen to look very similar. It happens. People are attracted to those who look like them. The idea was both terrifying and tempting. That's crazy. Is it more crazy than what we're already doing? He had a point. We spent the rest of the night discussing possibilities, planning a future where we could be together more openly, even if we still had to hide the full truth of our relationship. Our senior year flew by in a blur of classes, swim meets, and stolen moments together. We both got accepted to graduate schools in Seattle, me for medical school, Nathan for his MBA. Our parents were proud but concerned about us continuing to be so dependent on each other. Don't you want to try living separately? Our mother asked during one of her visits. You boys need to learn to be independent. We save money living together. Nathan explained smoothly. Besides, we're both going to be so busy with our programs we'll hardly see each other. That was far from the truth. Our first apartment in Seattle became our sanctuary. For the first time, we had a real home together, no roommates. No parents visiting unexpectedly. We could be ourselves within those walls. We decorated it together, bought furniture, cooked meals in our small kitchen. It felt like playing house. Except the love we shared was very real and very deep. Seattle brought new freedoms but also new challenges. Graduate school was demanding for both of us. My medical studies consumed most of my time, while Nathan juggled his MBA classes with a part-time job at a consulting firm. We developed a routine. Early mornings were our time together, sharing coffee and breakfast before heading to our respective schools. Evenings were hit or miss. Sometimes one of us would be studying late into the night while the other slept. But weekends were sacred. We made a rule unless there was an emergency. Weekends were just for us. One rainy Sunday morning, typical Seattle weather, as we lay in bed listening to the raindrops against our window. Nathan brought up something we'd been avoiding. "We need to talk about the future," he said, his fingers absently playing with my hair. The long-term future. I knew what he meant. We were 24 now, and questions from family and friends about our dating lives were becoming more and more frequent. "Mom keeps trying to set me up with her friend's daughter," I said. "She's worried we're both going to end up alone." Nathan shifted to face me. Maybe it's time to start our plan." The plan we discussed in college, moving somewhere new. Somewhere we could be partners rather than brothers. It had always seemed like a distant possibility. But now it felt closer than ever. "But where would we go?" I asked. "I've been thinking about that," he said. "My firm has offices in Europe. I could request a transfer after I finish my MBA. London maybe. Or Amsterdam. I'd have to get licensed to practice medicine there. It would take time." "Yes. But think about it, we could start fresh. No one would know us as the Mitchell twins. We could just be Alex and Nathan. Two people in love who happen to look alike." The idea was simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. What about mom and dad? The rest of the family? We'd visit for holidays, keep in touch, but we'd have our own life. Our own story. We spent the rest of that rainy Sunday planning our escape. It wouldn't be immediate. We both needed to finish our degrees. And I needed to complete my residency. But having a concrete plan made everything feel more real. In the meantime, we continued our careful balancing act. Nathan occasionally went on dates to maintain appearances. Always with women he worked with who were more interested in networking than romance. I used my busy schedule as an excuse to avoid the dates our mother tried to arrange. One night, after a particularly successful presentation at his firm, Nathan came home with unexpected news. "They're opening a new office in Copenhagen," he said, barely through the door. "They're looking for people to transfer there in the next year." I looked up from my medical textbooks. "Copenhagen? It's perfect, Alex. Denmark is one of the most progressive countries in Europe. The health care system is excellent. You could practice there, and it's far enough away that family wouldn't visit too often." The Copenhagen opportunity became our light at the end of the tunnel. We spent months researching the city, the health care system, the requirements for medical licensing. I started learning Danish through online courses, though Nathan assured me most Danes spoke excellent English. But before we could make our move, life threw us an unexpected challenge. Our father had a heart attack. It wasn't severe, they caught it early, and he recovered well, but it shook our family. Mom was beside herself with worry. And suddenly, our plans to move across the ocean felt selfish. "Maybe we should wait," I said one night after returning from visiting Dad in the hospital. "They need us here." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "If we wait for the perfect time, we'll never go. There will always be something keeping us here." "But Dad's going to be fine. The doctor said his prognosis is excellent. And Copenhagen isn't Mars, we can come back if they need us." He was right, of course. But the incident made us realize we needed to be more strategic about our exit. We couldn't just disappear to Europe without raising suspicions. Over the next few months, Nathan started mentioning the Copenhagen office more frequently to our family, talking about the career opportunities there. I researched medical exchange programs and began the process of getting my credentials evaluated for European practice. Our mother, predictably, was distressed about the possibility of both her sons moving so far away. "But why Copenhagen?" she asked during a family dinner. "There are plenty of opportunities here. The firm's European headquarters will be there," Nathan explained. "It's a chance to be part of something from the ground up." "And you're going too?" she asked me. I nodded. They have an excellent medical research program I'm interested in. Plus having Nathan there would make the transition easier. Dad, still recovering but looking better, smiled. You boys have always taken care of each other. Maybe it's good you'll be together in a strange country. If only he knew how right he was. The pieces started falling into place. Nathan's firm approved his transfer, and I secured a position at a research hospital that would allow me to work toward Danish medical licensing. We found an apartment in Frederiksberg, a beautiful neighborhood in Copenhagen. But the biggest challenge was yet to come. Before we left, we needed to start laying the groundwork for our new identity as a couple rather than brothers. We couldn't simply arrive in Copenhagen and announce we were together. The expatriate community was small, and word could get back to our family. We need a story, Nathan said one night as we packed our apartment. Something believable about how we met. Why we look so alike. We could say we met at university. I suggested. It's not entirely untrue. We spent weeks crafting our story, making sure every detail was consistent and believable. According to our new narrative, we'd met during our undergraduate years at a study group. The remarkable similarity in our appearance had been an initial talking point, leading to friendship and eventually romance. It's close enough to the truth, Nathan said as we rehearsed our story. The best lies always are. The hardest part was practicing how to interact differently in public. For years, we'd trained ourselves to maintain brotherly behavior. But now we needed to learn how to be a couple while still appearing casual enough not to draw attention. No more calling me bro in public, Nathan teased during one of our practice sessions. Our last few weeks in Seattle were bittersweet. We had our goodbye dinner with Mom and Dad at their house, the place where our relationship had first transformed from brotherly to something more. Mom cried, of course, and made us promise to visit for Christmas. Take care of each other, Dad said as he hugged us goodbye. And call your mother, you know how she worries. The flight to Copenhagen was long, but it felt like we were flying toward freedom. As we crossed the Atlantic, Nathan held my hand, something we'd never been able to do on previous flights when traveling with family. Our new apartment in Frederiksberg was everything we'd hoped for, spacious by European standards. With large windows and a small balcony overlooking a quiet street lined with trees. The building was old but beautifully maintained, with high ceilings and hardwood floors. Welcome home, Nathan said as we stepped inside for the first time, pulling me into a kiss. For the first few weeks, we were careful. We introduced ourselves to neighbors and colleagues as roommates who were both starting new jobs in Copenhagen. Only after people got to know us did we gradually begin to show more affection in public. To our surprise, most people accepted our relationship without question. Our story about meeting in university and being drawn together partly because of our similar appearance seemed to satisfy any curiosity about our identical looks. Nathan's job at the firm kept him busy, but he thrived in the international environment. I split my time between the research hospital and intensive Danish language courses. Medical licensing requirements were strict about language proficiency. Our new life felt like a dream. We could hold hands walking through Tivoli gardens, share kisses at cafes, be openly affectionate at company parties. The freedom was intoxicating, but reality had a way of intruding. 6 months into our Copenhagen life, Mom announced she and Dad were planning to visit. We need to make the apartment look like we have separate rooms, I said, panicking after the video call. And we need to practice being brothers again. The weeks leading up to our parents' visit were filled with careful preparations. We converted our home office into a fake bedroom, complete with personal items and a barely used bed. We practiced reverting to our old patterns of interaction: no casual touches, no intimate glances, maintaining proper brotherly distance. It feels strange now, Nathan said after one of our practice sessions. Like wearing clothes that don't fit anymore. The morning our parents arrived, we met them at the airport, giving appropriately brotherly hugs. Mom was emotional as always. Dad proud and curious about our new life. Show us everything, Mom insisted as we drove them to our apartment. I want to see where my boys are living. We'd carefully staged the apartment: separate bedrooms, separate bathrooms, photos of family and friends displayed prominently, nothing that might hint at our true relationship. It's lovely, Mom said, inspecting every corner, but so neat. I never thought I'd see the day when you two kept such a tidy home. If only she knew how many hours we'd spent making it look like two brothers lived here instead of a couple. The week of their visit was exhausting. We had to constantly monitor our behavior, catching ourselves before familiar touches, stopping terms of endearment before they could slip out. At night, we had to sleep separately, which felt wrong after so many years of sharing a bed. But there were close calls. One morning, Dad nearly walked in on us in the kitchen when Nathan was holding me from behind as I made coffee. We managed to spring apart just in time, but the moment left us shaken. That was too close, I whispered later when we had a moment alone. The visit also brought unexpected complications. Mom, ever the matchmaker, had apparently been in contact with some Danish-American families in Copenhagen. The Hansens have a lovely daughter about your age, Alex, she mentioned during dinner one night. They've invited us all over tomorrow evening. Nathan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. We'd known this might happen, but it still hurt. Mom, I'm really focused on getting my medical license right now. I tried to deflect. I don't have time for dating. You can't work all the time. Sweetheart, you need to have a life too. The dinner with the Hansens was uncomfortable. Their daughter, Emma, was indeed lovely, intelligent, pretty, and clearly interested. Under different circumstances, we might have been friends. Instead, I had to play the part of the slightly interested but career-focused doctor while Nathan watched with carefully concealed tension. That night, after our parents went to bed in their hotel, we finally had a moment alone. I hate this, Nathan whispered, holding me tight, watching you pretend to be interested in her, having to act like it doesn't kill me. After our parents left, we felt both relieved and unsettled. The visit had shown us just how precarious our situation remained. Despite the freedom we'd found in Copenhagen, the constant threat of discovery hung over us like a shadow. We need a better plan, Nathan said one evening as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset over the city rooftops. We can't keep living two separate lives forever. He was right. Every visit home, every video call with family required elaborate preparation and constant vigilance. The strain was beginning to show. Then came the email that would force us to confront our situation head-on. Mom had sent Emma my email address, and she'd written to invite me for coffee. What are you going to do? Nathan asked, his voice tight with barely controlled emotion. I have to go, I said. If I don't, Mom will get suspicious. She's already asking why I never date. The coffee meeting with Emma was pleasant but uncomfortable. She was easy to talk to, and in another life, we might have been good friends. But as she dropped hints about seeing each other again, I felt like the worst kind of liar. I should tell you, I said finally. I'm seeing someone. Her face fell slightly, but she recovered quickly. Oh, your mother didn't mention it. It's complicated. We're keeping it private for now. It wasn't exactly a lie, but it felt like one. When I told Nathan about the conversation later, he was quiet for a long time. Maybe we should consider being more open, he said finally. Not about everything, but about being together. What do you mean? We could start dropping hints to friends here. Let it become known that we're a couple. Not hiding it but not advertising it either. Let people draw their own conclusions. The idea was terrifying but tempting. We'd made friends in Copenhagen, colleagues, neighbors, people who knew us only as Alex and Nathan, not as the Mitchell twins. Could we trust them with part of our truth? We decided to start small. At Nathan's company Christmas party, we allowed ourselves to be more openly affectionate. When his coworkers commented on how similar we looked, we shared our practiced story about meeting in university and being drawn together partly because of our resemblance. To our surprise, most people accepted it without question. A few raised eyebrows perhaps, but no one seemed particularly shocked or scandalized. In progressive Copenhagen, we were just another couple. But our newfound openness brought new complications. Photos from the Christmas party circulated on social media. And though we'd been careful about our social media presence, we couldn't control what others posted. What if someone from home sees? I worried. Our fears about social media exposure weren't unfounded. A few weeks after the Christmas party, we received a message from our cousin Rachel. Hey, weird question. She wrote in a group chat with both of us. My friend who works in Copenhagen says she saw you guys at a party. She said you seemed close. Is everything okay? My heart stopped. Nathan and I exchanged panicked looks across our dining table. We need to get ahead of this, Nathan said quietly, before it spirals out of control. We crafted a careful response. Everything's great. Living in a new country, we've gotten closer. It's nice having family here for support. Rachel seemed satisfied with the answer. But the incident left us shaken. We realized we needed to be more strategic about our public presence. We began setting boundaries: no photos at social events where we might be too obvious. Careful screening of our social circles. But the constant vigilance was exhausting. One night, after a particularly stressful day of dodging questions from colleagues about our relationship status, I broke down. "I can't keep doing this," I said, tears streaming down my face. "Living two different lives. Always watching every word, every gesture, it's killing me." Nathan held me close, his own eyes wet. "I know, love, I know." That night, we had a long, difficult conversation about our future. We couldn't keep living in limbo forever, trying to balance our love with family obligations and societal expectations. "Maybe we should consider telling someone," Nathan suggested, "someone we'd trust completely." After much discussion, we thought of Aunt Sarah, our mother's younger sister. She'd always been the family rebel, moving to Paris in her 20s and living an unconventional life. She'd never judged, never pushed for explanations about our lack of relationships. We invited her to visit us in Copenhagen, making sure she came alone. Over dinner in our apartment, with shaking hands and racing hearts, we told her everything. The silence after our confession seemed to stretch forever. Then, to our amazement, she reached across the table and took both our hands. "I've wondered," she said softly, "the way you look at each other, it's not how brothers look at each other. I've seen it for years. But I didn't want to presume." We both started crying, years of tension and fear releasing in a flood of emotion. "What do we do?" I asked through tears. "We can't keep hiding forever. But we can't tell everyone. It would destroy Mom and Dad." Aunt Sarah became our confidant and advisor, helping us navigate our complex situation. Her support gave us strength we didn't know we needed. "You don't have to figure everything out right now," she told us. "Live your lives. Be happy. The future will unfold as it should." And so we did. We built our life in Copenhagen, finding a balance between privacy and authenticity. To our family back home, we remained the close-knit Mitchell twins who'd moved abroad for career opportunities. To our chosen family in Copenhagen, we were simply Alex and Nathan, a couple who'd found love despite, or perhaps because of, their remarkable similarities. Years passed. We built successful careers, made lasting friendships, and created a home filled with love. Our parents visited occasionally, and we returned home for holidays, each time getting better at managing our dual identities. Looking back now, I realize that what seemed like an impossible situation had shaped us into stronger, more resilient people. Our love, though unconventional, had survived every challenge life threw at us. As I write this final entry, Nathan is making dinner in our kitchen, humming softly to himself. The setting sun bathes our Copenhagen apartment in golden light, and I can hear the distant sounds of the city we've come to call home. We may never be able to share our full truth with the world, but we've found our own kind of freedom in this city. In this life we've built together, we've discovered that love doesn't always need to be explained or justified. Sometimes it just needs to be lived. Our story isn't over, but we've learned to embrace the complexity of our lives rather than fight against it. And in the end, isn't that what love is all about? Finding peace in the chaos, beauty in the imperfect, and home in each other's arms.